based in Penang. And we are actually hosting this in our office in Penang, the Aliran office in Penang. So today we're going to talk about activism through filmmaking and photography. And we have two special guests today, Andrew Han and Evelyn Teh. Just to introduce our two speakers, Andrew is a documentary filmmaker and also the secretary of Pertubuhan Jaringan Ekologi dan Iklim, or JEDI for short. While Evelyn is a researcher at ARA Research, a nonprofit organization that works on issues related to sustainable development. She's also a photographer and documentary filmmaker. So some of you, especially those of us in Penang, will be familiar with these two. But actually, you might not recognize them because probably you're seeing their work through either videos or photos or films. Yeah. So to start with, I would just like to ask Andrew and Evelyn to talk a little bit about their background, where they studied, where they came from, and what they're doing at the moment. So you want to start first, Evelyn?
Hi, thanks for having us, Aliran and Anil, for hosting us, giving us this space to share the work that we do. I'm from Penang, and my background actually started as my bachelor's is in marine biology. So then I ventured into environmental management, and then I did city design and social science. So that's the training that I got. But photography and filmmaking came much later during my adulthood, and working and getting to know what the word activism even means. So we can talk about more of that later.
Yeah. Andrew, tell us about yourself.
Oh, so my background or what I studied actually has nothing to do with filmmaking or documentary filmmaking. I studied literature in English. And then after that, well, I like the subject a lot, We talk about critical thinking and so on. So I decided after my USM days when I did my degree, decided to continue. I want to do masters in post-colonial literature. And and I think during that time there was opportunity need to work, you see. So somebody wanted to get a research assistant, and it was coincidence that they were looking at independent filmmakers, and that's where my first experience of a filmmaking group kind of influenced me, and that's the beginning of my interest in making content or making film. And how that ends up to activism, it's a long story. We can talk about that later.
Okay. So in your case, the filmmaking started before your activism.
I think I think that's the first one, because I was looking at the independent films, short films, and that kind of leads to activism because of the issues, very subtle issues it brought in about through the films. And then after that, the filmmakers also, the documentary filmmaking movement and filmmakers or short films are very close to each other. So that kind of like make me, hey, documentary is much more interest. It's more real, you know what I mean? And it's easier to understand compared to some of the art film that is being presented.
Right.
So yeah, that's how it begins. So KL lah, yeah.
And somewhere along the way, you got married to Evelyn.
It makes it sound like it's a rich marriage.
So, can you tell us a bit, how did you meet, through your activism or through your work in the films and photography, or elsewhere?
This one I better let my wife explain later. I say something wrong. Habis so early.
Fine. We didn't meet through work. We met in school. We were both 18 at that time. So I went to Form 6, which made I entered to his school, and that's how we knew each other. And I think when we first knew each other, we were just kids, right? We don't know how we're gonna be 20 years time. but I'm glad that we sort of grew towards the same direction, like share the same value. And I think the most important part in our journey is that supporting each other's dreams and really sharing the same cause. I think that sort of held us together.
So was it a coincidence that your paths converge, or it's slightly?
It didn't started out that way. I think like, Andrew did post-colonial literature and I'm from the science stream. So we both have very different way of looking at things. But he gravitated towards environmental conservation earlier than I had with my political awareness. For me, I think a lot of science students, maybe it's just me lah. I have a very late awakening towards like, political awareness and all that, because I think school don't encourage you to talk about it. During my time, I think now they're more open. And my first taste of like, having this political awareness is when I joined Andrew for the second birthday march, because he went for the first one and he had like, the first one was quite bad, right? They were chased down by FRU and all that. And he came back telling me that he had to climb the walls and into a mosque to escape. And everybody was just running helter-skelter. So for me, I was like, why do you put yourself in that kind of situation? Like, there's other way to show that, you care for the country and all that. Why do you need to be out there putting yourself in the way of danger? So the second birthday came around and he said he wants to go again. And I know that it's going to be just as bad, if not worse. So I made this, I made this very wrong calculation of saying, I will put myself in danger if you still want to go, Then he's like, okay, come with me. So I cannot back out of that. So I went, I didn't want to wear a yellow t-shirt. So that, I was still very like reserved about the whole thing. But that was literally my, in a way, baptism of fire, because we had it really bad. The second one, we were at Pudu. So we were the fifth row behind the front line when, everyone was bantah duduk, right? And then this whole historical picture of everyone sitting down, the whole Pudu picture on the front newspaper. And when I was there, I think I saw so many people there, from all walks of life, young women, children, even children and OKU people on wheelchair was there. And because many of the roads were closed, the LRT trains, were the only one moving, and they aren't stopping at strategic stations. They have to pass certain place so that you don't gather at that place to meet. But everyone on that train knew why we were on that train. We just look at each other knowingly that, hey, I know we are all on a mission. So when we got down in Pasar Seni, it was just very quiet. But at the time, I think it was 11 o'clock. Like everyone just filled the road with yellow shirts. I was like, I don't know where they came from, but it was such a feeling, of immense, like, wow, Malaysian being together. Huh? AM, 11 in the morning. Yeah. So we all marched and everything. And then, things got really bad. There was tear gas, there was water cannon. We were running up Tung Shin hospital. They were blasting it. So it was all the full works, right? So for me, I realized that, wow, this is an important cause. Not because we were treated the way we were, but also like, why was there so much, restraint, or rather that kind of heavy-handed treatment on people who are basically harmless. So yeah, I digress, but that's, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a bit of an awakening, huh?
Yeah, for me.
Yeah. So and yeah.
Oh.
So that was a kind of awakening for you. And then how did your path in activism and yours
So
environmental issues? You are also concerned about environmental issues.
not immediately though. I mean, my pathway to activism was basically through student movement. I mean, it's not so. When I was in USM, I didn't have that kind of exposure. I know there were students activists around. I know people like Om Boon Kyo or some of the students so far. There was protesting outside USM, but was never interested. You see, was never interested. Then when I went on to UKM, I think that's where it really opens up my eyes. You can blame it that has nothing to do in Bangi and things like that, but stay in hostel is a good exposure, meeting with people, exchanging ideas, inviting you to talks and discussion. And it kind of interests me when we talk about issue of living wages, talk about equal rights, talk about sensitive issues which you can't really talk about it publicly. And I remember when I was invited by a group of students, it was a group called Discopi, Discussion and Having Coffee. And we saw underground, they had to like do it under the library where there's a room that's empty and sit in circle and talk about everything. And I thought that was something that I like to do. And I think that's open up doors for more things. You have discussion, then you have activism, organizing activism, protests, writing up pamphlets and so on. And I like that. But it's strange because you know what, the time I was a master's student and these are all degree students and there is some, being old and so on, but still join. And that leads towards more protests. And I joined a lot of protests back then. That's what I think I remember there's one time I had to call back home, call her and say, hey, don't worry. I just want to let you know that I was arrested. I'm in Petaling Jaya police station now. Please call that. I need someone to bail me off and things like that lah. And didn't know that I was participating in anti-ISA protests in PJ. And didn't know that struggle had caused me to go in and out of the court for 8 years. So it was quite difficult. Yeah. And I think that process leads me to where I am today because it opened up doors to see society and the nation's pathway and to be involved in many ways.
Can you mute?
I can hear some kid
Yeah.
crying.
Yeah, so that was quite a trying time for you, 8 years going in and out of court. Yeah, so and then how did you get involved in the environmental issues? Because you've been very much involved with the fishermen, right?
I mean, the environmental issue is actually Evelyn's because she's a marine biologist.
Ah.
I'm not. And maybe that kind of thing when she tells me what's happening in Penang when I'm in KL, it kind of drives in the message of protecting the natural environment and so on. And when we had the chance to go back to Penang, I took a year off by exploring Penang once again, reading some of the books, maybe by books like I think Cecil Rajendra's poem about Penang. I think there's one book about Martin's father. He wrote about Penang.
Island in the Sun.
Island in the Sun. These are quite refreshing to see how Penang is and the beauty of Penang as it is. And that kind of make me, I mean, the historical part of Penang really opens up my eye lah. And that encouraged me to go and meet up with people who are affected by development at that time. There's so many plans coming out. And one of the main people that was affected during the vision of what Guan Eng has for Penang was actually the fishermen. And from there on, Evelyn being a marine biologist, so I'll go back to her and ask her, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And I think that kind of like add on to my understanding of the environmental impact and issues surrounding development, greed, and also the impacts it has on the people that's happening in Penang. So I decided to research a little bit more, get involved, whatever I can. Yeah. I'm not sure what anything you want to
Yeah,
add
tell
on.
us how you actually met the fishermen and
Oh, it was all Andrew, the fisherman part. You started by meeting them.
But you want to talk about your work actually give you some kind of exposure to what's happening in Penang. That's why you've been telling me about whatever that's happening. That's why I decided to find out more.
So we actually spent about 7 years in KL. So when we were in our early 20s to late 20 something. And over there, I was a researcher in the Maritime Institute of Malaysia. So I look at all the national issues pertaining to, coastal coral reefs and even climate change and island management and all that. Clearly, there's a lot of environmental issues that are quite similar in different states. Some are more unique, like in Sabah, you have fish bombing and arsenic fishing and ocean acidification and all that. So I think what Andrew and I is like, we communicate a lot our work with each other. So whenever I tell him about the research that I'm doing, he listens, and vice versa. So I think that sort of rubbed off on him. And the fact that we decided to come back to Penang in 2015 was also motivated by the fact that we thought, there's this new, leadership in Penang that perhaps, we could go back and give back to our own state. So I went and worked with Penang Institute. But then I looked at the urban areas development vis-a-vis environmental sustainability as well. So that work sort of continued. And I think, Andrew being in such close proximity with me cannot help but to be part of the work that I do as well.
Yeah. And it's not just about the fishermen that time. It was the hills issue was a big topic in Penang.
Yeah, there was all landslides at that time.
The Penang Forum was leading the campaign of Save the Hills of Penang and so on, and the Botak Hill issue and so on. And that also leads to open up doors to go into conservation of animals. That's where the issue of langurs and myself got involved. And until today lah.
So talking about coming back to contribute to Penang, in Penang, as you know, we have had this tussle over the vision for Penang. On the one side, the state government is trying to promote us. I think at that time the debate was between a smart, intelligent city, and on the other side, civil society was looking at quality of life issues. And one of the arguments put forward for the reclamation, which is affecting the fishermen, is that the state needs more land. Earlier it was the reclamation was needed to finance the Penang Transport Master Plan. But as you know, that didn't work out because for reasons, unexplained reasons. So right now, the justification is that the state needs the land for development purposes, industrial areas, to expand the industrial area. So that's why it needs to have that extra land on the southern coast. But of course, that land is now affecting the fishing communities there. So I'd just like to get your opinion on how do you see this as do you see this justification as with basis, or is it something that need not have been done?
You have anything to say?
I mean, for this issue of reclamation, it has been going on, and I'm kind of tired to really want to talk about these things because it's very right now as we speak, reclamation already started, right? And I felt that the degree of things I want to say will not change anything at all. You know what I mean? As for now, the people who are affected, the people, especially the community of fishermen who are affected surrounding the area, needs whatever support, solidarity support, emotional support, and being with them to hear them out is the key question now. But some NGOs already, including my NGOs, has brought this up to for judicial review, and let's just hope for a good result. Let's hope for something positive to come out of it. That's how I see it. There's no point to talk about it right now. I think we have came up with a lot of statement recently, and you get a lot of frustrating and nonsensical answers from the agency and authorities. So yeah, I think that's the case.
Yeah. So it's also going to be a problem for food security in Penang. The price of fish, especially in the future, and the supplies of fish. But tell us about how you've been able to use your photography and filmmaking to highlight the plight of the fishermen, the fishing communities in Penang. And do you think it's had any impact in terms of raising awareness among the public about the importance of food security and the balance of the need for more balanced development.
So recently we just wrapped up a photo exhibition in COEX, and we commissioned 2 professional photographers to go around Penang beaches to talk to and get to know the coastal fishermen, and then take portraiture photos of them. And we blew up the photos. It was exhibited for 2 weeks. We put a guest book there, and I think judging from the remarks that people leave behind, that is very positive and welcoming. The fact that not a lot of people have seen these the fishermen, the coastal fishermen in this light before. Maybe you can also share the screen. I think that's like the bottom slides. Oh yeah. Oh, it's not showing up there. Oh, okay now.
Okay, talk us through it.
Oh, this whole thing?
Yeah.
But it's not part.
It's
Okay. All right.
Just about your
We can
activities.
just go. Okay, right. This one I'll let Andrew speak, because this is how he actually started using film documentary as a form of activism.
Okay, what you can see right now is one of those first project which I've done to look into the topic of hills and the seas. That's the title of the documentary. And that time in 2016, I think the hot topic was on the topic of hills degradations, hill developments, and also reclamation itself. And when this topic kind of like one of the problems that Penang faced at that time, right, kind of foreshadows, and someone had already talked about these things, which is actually Cecil Rajendra's poem called The Hills and the Sea. And that kind of like tells me that, oh, this needs to be protected. And at the same time, you have plans of how hills can be cut, seas are being filled, and that's going to open up opportunities for me to raise about this issue up by looking into coming up with a story that related to the hills and the sea. And we got funding from Film Fest and to do this. And I was quite skeptical. Reason is because many of the documentary that time are pretty much against the Barisan National government, and now you have a documentary in the opposition state, and you can imagine at that time I can very easily be labeled as a UMNO stooge or Barisan National stooge for causing trouble in the opposition state with this kind of documentary. But anyway, we managed to showcase this film, and we got quite a lot of attention and awareness being raised. And if you remember, during that time to 2017, there was a great flood happened in Penang. Yeah, November, and this documentary came out a week after that, and people, it was quite a lot of people who shows interest on the topic of the hills and the seas, and how does that all contribute to discussion of how development needs to be careful to prevent natural disasters like flood in Penang, you see. Yeah.
Go to the next slide. Arrow.
Okay, then another opportunity which I got in 2019 was to have to produce a documentary on the fishermen at the south of Penang. And if you remember the documentary we talked about the hills and the sea, that was on the topic of Tanjung Tokong fishermen, and they are the one that got affected by the Gurney Bay and the Straits Key, the Andaman Islands that you see today, right? And that time was just documenting about their struggles, and after that, with that access to fishermen, it gives them access to other fishermen unit in Penang, and especially in the areas of Teluk Kumba in the south of Penang. And you may know that time they were having proposals That was proposed to have the 3 big islands to be reclaimed at the south of Penang. And upon going there to research a little bit, to get to know the people, I encountered this wonderful person by the name of Tuan Haji Zakaria. Okay, that time Tuan Haji Zakaria was not even the leader of a fishing unit. He was just a person, a member of the unit Nelayan Sungai Batu, and got to know him, talk to him, willing to give me information, to interview and so on. And then after that, he was appointed to become the AJK of the mosque and also the pengurusi of unit Nelayan Sungai Batu. And with that, the documentary become strong because you have a person who genuinely wants to fight for a cause to save the unit Nelayan Sungai Batu here from being destroyed. And successfully, we are able to make the film and was able to do road shows all around Malaysia and also in locally in Penang as well. We have screening in various places in villages using a way of community screening. And I thought that was a great way to engage people back then using a very short film. It's I think it's about 16 minutes long only.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the film. It was quite moving, I have to say. And this is your film, Grayscale,
Yeah.
Evelyn.
This is our latest, well, most recent project, but it's 2 years back. So what you see earlier was a lot of environmentally, inclined stories. This is the first time we talked about, in a way, human right, but the story is about an aging person during COVID pandemic because Freedom Film Festival put out a grant. They wanted a theme called Pandemic Dua Darjat, meaning, double standard pandemic. I think we all went through the pandemic really cognizant of the fact that some of us are very privileged, some of us are not. And they want to highlight these inequalities and bring it to light. So I wondered that there's a lot of stories about, low income community from the gender lens as well. And I think this story of a single old woman sort of covers all of it. She's living by herself. She's like 80 years old. And there's also the digital divide. So we brought all these into this 20-minute film. And I think everybody who watched it resonate with the story one way or the other. Either they saw their future self in it or even their own auntie or grandparents in it. And I'm glad that the responses that we trigger is like, is there anything we can do about this? It's always about what's next. We clearly see the message and the problem that we are facing here. And it's so important because Malaysia and Penang especially is an aging society. And it's not just because age is just a number. We're talking about a lot of health issues coming up, rising cost of living, affordable housing, mobility issues, and we're not even talking about like dementia or anything like that. So you're looking at a really big, if I would say, ticking time bomb of the way our society is moving into. And EPF, periodically will come out with articles saying that, oh, our account holders doesn't even have like 10,000 in their account. Like that's like a big majority of percentage who cannot afford to retire. So this is the broader message that Grayscale is trying to bring into. Because if we don't start, looking at all these things and putting safeguards in place, then I think we will have a really big problem to deal with. Yeah. Only 20 minutes. Yeah, so it's short enough for people to, pay attention. And also we always follow up with a post-screening discussion. So Orange was there too. So we're very thankful because that also connects us to some of the right people who are also working on this issue. So we're following up with, because Penang is aiming towards getting recognized as, or rather submitting a application for age-friendly city sort of standard or guideline. I'm not very sure. And we managed to connect with a dementia advocate as well, who's very passionate about this issue. So it's good that it brings people together. Film does that. If you write an article, it doesn't go that kind of way in terms of impact. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched both of your films, the Fisherman's one and the Grayscale. I must say, you put out the portrait of both these individuals in a very poignant way. And by capturing their lifestyle, you managed to also encapsulate what they were going through, their struggle, their daily struggles. And it brought the message to the audience in a very powerful way. And I think it was both these films were very powerful in their own way. So I must congratulate both of you on this effort. And I encourage all of you as well to try and see whether you can get hold of these two documentaries.
No, it's not. Yeah,
Yeah,
but we can
but
host
they've been-
screening.
They've been, yeah, so they've been hosting screenings of these films around Penang. So you're welcome to contact both Evelyn and Andrew if you want to host a screening of these two films. Moving on, it's a photography workshop, and take us actually know what's happening here.
So we had like 2 photography projects just in this March. One of it is my collaboration with a photography group and Sony Malaysia. So they wanted to get people to use their gears, of course, but in a way where it tells a story. So not just like pictures for the sake of pictures. So I picked the story of fishermen because this is what I'm familiar with. And in the workshop, I would emphasize always that whenever you make a story about something or someone, most preferable and I think the most ethical is that you know this community well and they know your intention, you're transparent about it. I'm just because a lot of stories sometimes, right, it's interesting, but you don't know these people and then you like barge in and say, oh, I want to make a story out of you. So that's not sustainable and it's also not ethical. So that hence we put this out there to show a different light of the fishermen. So that's just a very small workshop for camera photography enthusiasts and, professionals. There's another one that we did at a larger scale. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah,
sorry.
so that is a write-up in Malaysia Kini about you.
Yeah, so they picked up on the promotion of that small workshop, and Malaysia Kini somehow decided to cover a story on this photography project and how I came about, coming to this topic as a researcher and all that. I think in my life as a researcher, which I started somewhere in 2007, it never occurred to me to use photography as a tool. It's all about writing and report writing and all that, posters. But getting into film documentary for the first time in 2022 and then doing this, it really opens up a door of how, visual tools can have very deep impact on the masses, more than write-ups and magazines and websites and sometimes even podcasts. But yeah, so I'm trying to see if there's more avenues and opportunities to translate real life issues, maybe backed up as well by, hard facts and research and data, but translate it in such a way where it's visually compelling to people. Because I think a lot of times public behavior change and opinion change, it's a very emotional thing. Sometimes it's not rational, but it's emotional. So if you can appeal on that direction, then I think, the communication and message gets across better.
And I think the next workshop exhibition is a step in that direction, trying to raise public awareness and put forward these images to a larger audience. No?
But I see this one is because I think all the years that we have put up effort in making the film, working with the community, all these things, it does helps in having access. And I thought it's a waste if we just end it that way and continue to do protesting and so on. And me and Evelyn, we decided that we have funding, let us do some photography work. And knowing that it may take us to a whole new level. And as much as it raised awareness, one thing I need to note that it also how to say, lift up the self-confidence and the morale and the self-worth of the fishermen. And when we did that, a lot of them don't understand why we're doing this, why you want to take a photo of me, why you want to do this. They don't get it until the exhibition when we able to print it out and pass it to them. It does gives an impact in terms of self-value. That's what we need, at the end, when the community have that kind of self-value that they can do things themselves. Our activism in doing grassroots movement has won. We have developed that kind of people, that kind of group that are more vocal and so on, right? So it's a long journey, and I believe that this kind of exhibition that we do goes both ways, not just for the people who are watching it, but also for the people who are the subject of the exhibition. Which reminds me again, now that I think about it, the people that we covered in the documentary at Tuan Haji, or even other people, the film kind of helps to elevate their confidence, and also to help them to do more things together. And when I look at how Tuan Haji was back in 2017 until now, my God, it's the changes he has.
What kind of changes?
More daring to speak up, right? You got more, I would say, more, especially on the confidence of the people on him as a leader, right? And all these things help.
Yeah, he became the sort of like figurehead of the struggle.
It jumps out so fast. He become a Persatuan, a vice president of Persatuan Nelayan Pulau Pinang, which he supposed he got the highest vote, but he don't want to don't become a pengurusi. That he just want to become a vice president, which I thought that was good of him.
If I can add a bit on that, the fishermen, they've been fighting the reclamation for some time already, even before Jedi or anybody came in. But it was just like, oh, it's our own personal problems and we fight it on our own. And at that time, when we first had like a roadshow at the unit, we were just showing what the EIA is about, because it's so technical, right? And then everybody, I mean, the hall was filled with people, and then I was sitting outside, and Don Haji was just next to me. That was the first time I met him, and he's very mild-natured, and he was just saying with a really big smile, like, oh, I really feel there's hope again. There's like, kali ni ada harapan lagi, because it's the first time that NGO and them in solidarity coming together, because they thought that they were always fighting alone. There's so much things that they don't understand, they can't do. And then when, we came together with Sabah Alam Malaysia as well, and that sort of rose a sense of renewed hope in him. And I think from then onwards, he just kept going, like really showing up, being present. No, this one is at their own unit, which is a very small one. We did like a buka puasa thing with them. So it's like, we have to go in and break the ice, introduce who we are, how we can help, how we can work with each other, rather than like, okay, this is now what you're going to do. Like, we're going to, take control over things. So we have to go in with that kind of sensitivity as well, knowing that there's so much that we don't know about them. Yeah. So our job was just to support them as far as we can, in terms of writing press statements and going through technical reports and asking them, is this something that you can agree with, or something that that's not right? And I think along the way we got some funding to also help diversify our activism work. So it's not just about protests and all that, but in a different way bring people closer to the community, because number one, is stigmatized. Number two, geographically, it's quite out of the way. Unless you have a business to do there, you're not there. And a lot of people like, oh, I never knew these coastal fishermen existed, but they are the ones who get all the fish for you. So there's a huge disconnect between the urban life and the life at the coast, especially, the fishermen. So we did some programs by bringing people to camp there for a night, and then, a day with a fisherman life, bring them out to the sea, and they really enjoyed it. They finally get to see like the hardship that they go through, see to catch, and all that. So that's the other kind of program, that sort of immersive program that we're doing. And we're also like, hosting different groups of students from all over the world, if I could say, who are interested in the coastal fishermen issues as well. So I guess, filmmaking is one, photography is one way, but also connecting different people group together. But also we have to be careful. We can't we can't treat the coastal fishermen like a tourist attraction, because there's this draw from the academia, especially wanting to cover this kind of topic. So they will come, they'll get all information, and then they'll leave, and then the fishermen will always have to lion them. And we think that this is not the right way. So whenever a group that comes, we say that whatever research outcomes that you have to share with us, so that we know that what you do with the time that we are affording to you. Maybe you have something to add.
No. I was more want to talking about, what are we talking about?
Coax, can just talk about coax.
Yeah. So this one, Anil, this one regarding the coastal fisherman photo exhibition, it was the first time that me and Evelyn do not do anything. I mean, do not
exactly
take
true.
photos. We are not the one who produce the content. I think as we move forward, right, I think it's also great that we collaborate with people. So this is the first time where we collaborate with photographers. We want to collaborate with artists, dancers, cooks, and things like that. So again, going back to photography and also film as a form of activism, is collaboration. I think is a big key towards that lah. Because after all, there are some people who are very great at the kind of work they do. For example, the two person that we collaborate with, Antoine and Pristine, in this in this photography, we commission them to take photos of fishermen, and we comes in just maybe as a form of experts in giving them access to places, telling them what should focus on, what can do. And at the end of the day, the result of it was beautiful photos that was captured, and I think it blows my mind as well. They give me photos that I'm able to curate, give us some photos that we can curate and form a story, and it was refreshing. And I thought, as an activist, not every advocacy should be done in forums or even on the streets or in public speaking, but things like this is as effective as going down to the streets. And in fact, you will honestly ask me, I think this is more fun to do this.
It's also more palatable to the public.
Less stress. You ask me when I organize protests, go to Parliament, you know how stressful that
Or the
thing to
logistical
organize, right?
nightmare. Oh my goodness.
Bus get scolded, need to find money. Oh, it's you need to talk to
Dealing with
police, all these
yes.
things, This
I
is
must say the exhibition was very well done. I mean, the portraits were very powerful, and it brought home the reality of what the fishermen are going through every day in their work. And like what you mentioned, it puts a human face to the suppliers of your food. Whereas normal people, they will go to the market and buy the fish. They wouldn't know who the people who catch the fish are and how it reaches the market from the sea. But this exhibition really put it out in a powerful way, in very vivid images, the kind of life and work they have to go through every day. Stop. Simon Tan says, I watched both Doam and the Lion and Grey Zone twice, which I found informative and thought-provoking. How to get these important documentaries mainstream, like national TV, YouTube channels with large following, etc.
You think my film can go national TV?
I don't see why not. I mean, it's very
You ask Famil Fazil.
Okay, Sukesh says, I was wondering how your photographs and film can have a deeper impact, reaching a wider audience. So both these commenters think that it should reach a wider audience. So maybe you want something for you to think about. How do you, especially the exhibition, the fishing elements exhibition, is there a way to make it more permanent, or maybe make it online or something, digital images?
We did talk about a photo book, isn't it?
Yeah, photo book is one of the way, and
even those two documentaries which you did, on Zakaria, Sinche Zakaria, your aunt.
Yeah.
yeah. Basically, you asked my opinion, as a documentary filmmaker and also activist. I don't think so. I always advise people when people say, hey, put on YouTube lah, put on a website. I always thought it's a bad strategy. You, like, for example, wider audience, you're talking about content, your content, you're fighting with right now in the internet world, there's so much content. You have to compete attention with people. And as soon as you upload it on YouTube, you're going to be, that content will be drowned by any other content and you will just be lost. And people will not watch it already. And it's quite sad. And I think for an NGO and activists, you have to be very strategic. Talking about a wide audience, are you going to like put it everybody watch, or are you going to strategically target the group that you would like to impact and have a discussion? You have to take that kind of path. Take it slow, take it into small groups, but do it consistently. Which is why I think right now you look at Evelyn's documentary Grayscale, it's not online. Mine on Doa Sore Nelayan, it was good, but after when you do more screen, no one comes anymore. Where's the discussion going to happen? You put it online, you're going to have a lot of trolls. You're going to have a lot. In fact, people can complain enough to let the video taken down. Why are we going to put that, right? I think the best way is to have small community screening, engage and really foster a good relationship and foster allies and have more activists to work on the cause that you have. So when we talk about film or photo, the strategy is something that we hardly think about. Yeah, so I think that is something that we need to constantly talk in the group, in strategizing your content as a form of activism to advocate the issue that you want to bring forward. That's my thoughts, sir. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I think for the coastal fishermen, photo exhibition, I think it could be translated into a book where we could give more context and write up about, the stories and the whole struggles, and maybe get some author to write it. I think that would be good. We can't be doing everything ourselves. So like Andrew said earlier, we need to collaborate with people. So we are looking for collaborators. If you all have any ideas, come to us, please. And for Grayscale, I think for now, I'm ongoing impact plan. So I'm talking to people who are working on, matters regarding to aging and trying to screen this so we can have a, it's like a vehicle for discussion, starting a discussion. And Andrew said it's like intentional. So what we do in terms of awareness building is not just purely for awareness, but also we want it to translate into action. So for that to happen, like Andrew said, we can't really put it up on social media and these kind of platforms, because we are really competing with all sorts of videos, and people's attention span is so short these days. So they may watch our video for 10 minutes and then they scroll another cat video or another cooking video. Like, what does it mean, after a while? You're putting yourself in a pool that you don't necessarily have to be in.
Yeah. So some comments on Facebook. TC says, admire all speakers, all of whom are working hard to make Penang a better place. Respect. Mary says, great point on the effectiveness of emotional appeal rather than rational approach. Andrew and Evelyn have definitely empowered the fishing community through their documentary and photography work. But has it had any effect on the policymakers? And Yuli says, your activism empowers sustaining Malaysians, building a colorblind, fairer, equitable, and socially just society. Both of you are shining lights.
Wow. Wow.
So on that note, I mean, like, we can come back on, maybe first address the point about, has it had any impact on policymakers? Or is that not your target audience?
Well, I mean, I think the ultimate aim is that, you address it at the policy level. That remains to be seen. Because in the structure plan, all 3 islands are still there, so it's still legal. Definitely, I think the ultimate end goal is to have policy change, but that's not the only thing that we work on. And sometimes, for policy change to happen, you sort of have to start from the ground, and sometimes you have to start from the high level as well. So both directions need to happen. So if whatever that we're doing now, we somehow can approach decision makers and all that who are open enough to have a discussion about this, then eventually policy can change. But policy change takes years. like we all know it takes decades, and it's like a relay, you know, you start today and then you pass the baton to the next generation. You hope that they run the race for you. So it doesn't happen overnight, but that kind of consistent work needs to continue to happen. And we definitely hope that, you know, young people, we're not that young anymore, young people would feel that this is something that they could do. Because I would be realistic about this, going into activism, and like, you know, whatever method you use, activism in itself takes a lot out of you, because you put yourself in it, and sometimes, you know, it stretches you very thin, because you still have your day-to-day commitments to meet, right? You still have bills to pay, food to put on the table, roof over your head, kind of thing. Until and unless you have that kind of privilege to jump into a cause that you totally believe in. And sometimes if you have a 9 to 5 job, could you sacrifice your evening and your weekends to do it? So yeah, I understand that
So,
not
so
everybody.
how do you both manage it? I mean, how do you balance this activism with your need to raise money to pay your bills?
One of us have to have a full-time job. Yeah.
But
A
if
lot
you
of
have,
therapy.
but what advice would you give to budding photographers and filmmakers on how to embark down on this road?
But I think I don't really have a solid advice, but I think maybe I want to start from the word activism, because that's probably a big part of our discussion today. Like I said, activism was a really strange word to me when I began, because I didn't have my political awakening until much later. And it seems as if, like, you know, all I see about activism is people protesting on the ground and, you know, causing traffic jam or whatever not. But after a while, I realized that our view of activism needs to be more nuanced and matured, because it can come in many, many forms. Like, even if you, okay, for one, maybe fighting for a free and fair election is one kind of activism. But if you're fighting for, like, fair wages, is a kind of activism as well. Or you are fighting for affordable housing, is a kind of activism as well. So I think people should not shy away from the word activism. It's just that you're just defending what is basic human rights. And I disagree that human rights is a Western value. It's just not articulated as human rights, but it's just basic, decent humans, basic rights. So with that in mind, I think for photographers or filmmakers, you can see, you'll start to see stories of activism in around your daily life. Like, you don't necessarily have to go to a war-torn country of a poverty-stricken city to highlight about, you know, the values that you want to highlight. But like, I started with my aunt. Her story was already, you know, a representation for a lot of aging people, and that's all you need to do. You can start small. So my thing is that you start small, believe in the work that you do, because if you don't, nobody else will. And then put it out there and see where it goes, and really anchor it on the cause that you want to fight for. And it's not done because you want to put your name out there or something like that, because if you chase after that kind of gratification, it's the wrong reason to get into it lah.
Drew, you say something, how you balance your work life and your
So I guess that my idea of how to survive activism, you want to put it that way, is to surround yourself with friends who have the same values as you, avenue for you to talk about this issue, to form friendship, just really soften the pressure or the stress of doing all these things. Find some avenues of where you can grow your principles in life. I guess some people find in books. For me, I personally can find that in my faith, in my religion, and also have a supportive wife. I think that's important, right? To say that. It is because if you have a partner who don't understand what you're doing, it's gonna be very troublesome, man. Right? Yeah, he won't understand what you're doing and so on. Can you imagine at that time she won't understand why am I going for a protest of protesting against water hike in Selangor? See, you're not even right. Why are you protesting? What for anti-ISA for all these things for what? You know.
Yeah.
you won't understand, but of course, eventually, slowly, she understands it by having patience, by talking about it, and then of course get her to rewatch my birthday and get sprayed by water and gas, and she got angry, say, yeah, that's why we're protesting, you know. Then
It was
but-
painful, really.
tear gas. Then no, and then you're part of the thing. But I think it slowly we grew together, lah. That's the most important part. We grow in our political maturity. But I don't think that she sometimes will see the world differently, no. But at the end of the day, we work together in achieving a certain common goal, lah. But as for now, we are trying to do less, you know what I mean, try to be more strategic in the things that we do. When we are young,
Yeah.
yeah, man, let's go, fight,
all out.
protest, do. But I think we also need to take care of mental health as well, you know, there will be disappointments, and that kind of disappointments will wear you out and will make you don't want to do anything else. So it's good to surround your friends and so have a supportive partner, and to see this as a long-term fight, lah. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
Got a
There will
couple
be
of
a lot of
interesting
trust.
questions here.
yeah.
Simon says, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong. Nowadays, video views, especially YouTube Shorts and TikTok, get the clicks. Few people read articles longer than one phone screen. To most people, making a video is quite a big task. Please give us tips on how to make videos simpler and easier. First of all, how do you compete with the TikTokers and YouTubers and all that? No? Are you? And secondly, I mean, like you mentioned, it's a crowded field out there, no? So you said that you're targeting specific target groups. But here he's also asking you to give us some tips on how to make videos simpler and easier.
My suggestion, you don't compete with TikTok. You cannot win, especially when pets videos are always in demand and things like that. You can't fight with that. How is the issue of Tuan Haji Zakaria be interesting, right? In the way, and you know, that is just one aspect, the language, the race, the environmental understanding of things is, it will limits people to appreciate activism video per se. That is why I go back to do a long form documentary, 20 minutes or half an hour, to do public screening and invite people to come, will be a better strategy.
Mm.
As soon as you put your content on TikTok and YouTube, you get swallowed up by other things.
Yeah, the algorithm is against you.
Yeah, against you. I
Yeah.
can guarantee you'll be more depressed to see your views only 100 views
Or less.
or less. your hours you put in and you get that. Oh, you might as well just do a long form, do a public a screening, watch. At least I can feel the physical appreciation of my work,
Yeah.
and it draws me. And then, oh yeah, you know, if you do that, you'll get the depression immediately, man.
Yeah, you
It's
have
a-
to understand that TikTok works on the algorithm that doesn't favor you if you don't put out contents consistently. Some influencers, they even have to do like upload 3 videos in a day, every day, in order to break that like threshold to be noticed by other people and not your
Exactly.
friends on your mother, you know, who follows you. So you really need to understand how the whole system works on TikTok before you even put it up there, because like Andrew said, you're going to be disappointed.
Correct. Take for example the exhibition photos we did. If I put my photos, that Antoine and Pristine, on Instagram, you only see 2-3 seconds. Then move on.
Mm,
I put that in Coex for 2 weeks, you know.
mm.
And I can guarantee you people watch, I can interact with them, and there's impression that can do. And the value of the person can see it being publicly displayed, all these things, it has a longer impact. It would be a waste if we took the photo and just upload everything on on Instagram or Facebook. I think we'll just discredit the artwork of my photographers we are commissioned, and it will not go a long way. And then next day just disappear. It will just be piled up with other photos like cats and food and things like that. That's quite sad, isn't it?
I see your point. Anyway, we're going to upload all this to YouTube.
Oh yeah. I mean, for forums like this, yes, you should. But I'm
Yeah.
talking about strategy.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and question by Takpo. There are good photos and bad photos, good films and bad films. How did you learn in your own work how to make the most effective content?
Oh, Oh, my suggestion, my thing is that a good film like this is for now lah. I think is a good protagonist, good character in your documentary. I have the chance to encounter people with good character that in the whole archetype of stories, the hero is important. So I have in Doa Soran the Lion Tuan Haji, the wise old man who's fighting against Goliath kind of idea. And that itself is a good story itself already.
David
Yeah.
versus Goliath.
Yeah, that kind of thing already.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee audience will root for him. It's a documentary, and when people watch it, they'll understand his fight, and people will sympathize towards my character.
And in the case of your aunt, I think people could identify with her plight, no? Or,
Yeah, everyone has an elderly in their family, so it's very easy to hit a soft spot.
yeah, yeah. Mary says maybe have a special screening and discussion with Penang State Exco.
Well, I'm trying to for Grayscale. Yeah, I've already invited her. She's
Yeah.
very busy, but also I've gotten in touch with her PA. So that's one of the directions that we're going to for Grayscale.
Right. So any other questions from our audience on the floor?
Is there a mic? Yeah.
Introduction, Andrew mentioned something that's quite interesting because I noticed he's also still wearing the t-shirt Penang Tolak Tambak. But when Anil asked that question, I like your answer saying that basically, if I didn't misunderstand you, it's on. The project is on. You know, how to tolak the tambak when they've already started reclaiming, right? So your point is, are you saying that we sort of like expect it to be completed and we fight other battles and think of the existing situation now and how can we help the fishermen there? Yeah.
Right, we have to be realistic in activism. Of course, you want to have a good ending and a perfect ending at the end of the day, but really we have to accept certain fact and move on our lives and fight in other ways. Okay, what that means that now that the reclamation starts, therefore my relationship with the fisherman ends. No, I think right now we see something more. Uh, we see something in the future, right? So I was talking right now to Tuan Haji, let's look into how we can do capacity training, training up more young fishermen to take your place. Because Tuan Haji knows he's at the age where he's old, and sooner or later, if he pass on, who will take his place? We have to think of future leaders. So we have to continue to work with them, and yeah, we know, even though they say it's only one island, like Evelyn said, that two island technically is not cancelled. It's just postponed. Yeah, it's just postponed until we all die or something like that. Only now let's start. Andrew's gone. Things like that. And we know. So it is important to be highly critical over whatever development that is being proposed, and cannot just stand down. I mean, as for now also, we are continuing monitoring the condition of the sea, the fish catch and the prawn catch. And whatever there is information, we release it out for people to judge for themselves, right? And I'm not in the honestly, I do not have the energy to debate with the state exco in this matter anymore, you know what I mean? But importantly is to empower the grassroots that we have today. Yeah.
I think the two films which Andrew and Evelyn produced, they also bring to question the whole issue of our development model, in the sense that in the case of the fishermen, how much do we value our fishing communities? And in the case of Evelyn's aunt, who are the people who are left behind along the path of development? And what do we have any support, social support structures to support vulnerable groups like the elderly? When we think of all the mega projects, the money used for mega projects, it seems like we do not have enough for money for healthcare for elderly and other vulnerable groups, including our migrant workers and refugees who have to pay much higher fees. So it brings to question our whole development model. So I think films like this are a powerful way of highlighting these kinds of people who are left out of the mainstream of development. In the development process, there are winners and losers, no? And unfortunately, society tends to celebrate the winners and forget about the losers in the whole process. And it's also a lot depends on consumer power, no? Any other questions? Some of you might have experience in photography and film.
This question was asked in our photo talk the other day. I can hear the echo. So, why is there echo? All right. That exact question is being asked about when is ethical or not ethical, right? About staging and things like that. I guess if you are recording something that they are doing, and then you just need a better shots, it's okay to ask them to do it again, because you're not asking them to do something else. If you're wrong, if I ask the fisherman, you pretend to go and tanam jagung because you got no, that is wrong, because you're asking you to do something that is staged. For example, if the fisherman is protesting, right? Okay, you stand in this way to do the protest, so I can take it. I think it's fine. But if I'm asking you to pretend to protest in certain area, I think that shouldn't be done. So that is a fine line that I want to that was discussed as well. Maybe you want to add on? Is there anything that was discussed further?
Yeah, I think for the two photographers that when we had that talk, someone raised that question whether it's manipulative, to stage or that. Because some of our photos are, two fishermen like almost touching hands, and then yeah, it looks staged, right? It is kind of staged, but it is also something that they do. Probably not in that kind of position.
Friends.
Yeah, and they're friends. So sometimes art, photography is also a form of art, right? So the photographers may have certain vision of depicting certain things, so they do it. But it's not necessarily manipulative. I think you can stage it in a point where it enhances the narrative and the story. But once it gets like fabricated and doctored, or like, oh, please say these like things that are not true, manipulative. Yeah, then that's where we shouldn't go lah. Thank you.
One question from Sukesh. So how do you publicize your exhibitions and shows?
For our exhibition, we had our Facebook group. We have quite an okay following, so that's where we spread it out. And one thing about engaging the two photographers is that they have their own following as well. So when we selected them, we considered that in the equation as well, that we often work in silos, even in environmental groups and the arts group. So by engaging the art circle, which are the photographers, it helps to transpire the message to the other group, and then they would find out like, oh, there's such thing as a fisherman thing. So that's how we spread the publicity in a way, but also to reach people that's already who's outside of our circle. Because oftentimes when you have topics like this, right, you attract people who are already interested, who are the converted in a way. That's why they come for such a heavy topic. But if you get someone to collaborate with you, which don't necessarily work in this area, but of course there's a bridge of collaboration, then that's where you reach out to new people. So that said, we just came down from a virtual reality exhibition, where we work with artists who convert their artistic vision into VR, like virtual reality, and also what do you call that, artificial extended reality as well. augmented reality. So sorry I digress, but publicity is through just social media lah, because usually the place that we have it also are quite limited in terms of space. We can only have like 50, 20 people, but the exhibition was kept going. So we also collaborated with a space, Coax, who also have a huge following. So in their bulletin, they will also put it out there. So try as far as possible to partner with different organizations so you get the word out further. I hope that answered your question.
So I think we've reached the end of our questions. Anybody want to add anything else? Tianning, can you unmute for any final words from our Zoom people? Tapu asked, can we contact you?
Yes.
Yeah, no problem, Tapu. We can put you in touch with Evelyn.
He's the master, isn't he?
Yeah, Tapu has got a lot of
and
experience
her
in
website
videos.
is
Yeah.
really good. She's such a good photographer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he did on, or she did on the Orang Asli. Yeah, of
Batik.
course. Yeah. Mm.
So if there's nothing else, we'd like to thank our two speakers, Evelyn and Andrew, for coming here today. Very enlightening talk and inspiring talk, and I hope future budding photographers and filmmakers will take the cue from them both, and maybe continue the fine work they've been doing. So thank you again to everybody for joining us today.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.